Okay. So we're still in this position where we haven't really got down low enough for this. We'll get the rocker. And we're beautiful everywhere. No rock anywhere. Apart from this one. None there. It's just that centre 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, it's one fret I'm having trouble with, but apart from that, we're pretty good. Managed to get everything down this end was very, very low. There were some high frets, there were some low frets, and generally it was
What's the fret? There's a problem with?
pretty pissed, huh?
Where's the fret you're having a problem with? Fret.
It's this one here. So I've got a flat top and it's level here and it's level here. Everything's perfect now. And it's just a bit low in the centre, and I'm going at it, and I don't want to go too crazy with it if I'm being honest. But if you use the fret rocker everywhere, everything's beautifully tight, and if I rock across these it's fine. And as soon as I go across them ones,
Oh yeah.
I've used my feeler gauges, and it was 0.12 of a millimetre, so like about 1/10 of a mil, yeah, it's not a lot. And I'm almost tempted to call it and just leave it, but that's still not far off a 1/10 of a mil, to be honest with you.
You recording?
Yeah. Surprise! That's it. He's off. You recording? Nah. Is it a problem if I am? Still smiling about that. You alright, Gaz? Sorry, bro. I mean to take the piss, honest. Ain't coming out, is it? Right. I can't go much slower than that, I don't think. Well, they were jumbo frets. Not anymore. Alright. One more good pass on it, I'm going to call it. Right, that's it. I'm calling it. And it's definitely come a bit wide. It's just that bit in the centre. Alright, let's see. Oh, they look great. They look even. They do look even. They do look good. All the heights off the fretboard look nice. They do look a little bit. That's pretty damn good now. Right, how are we looking now? Oh, that's better. It's literally that half an inch in the centre now. I'm calling it. Right. Let's have a good clean up, shall we? Right. Right, so we're definitely nice and level, but you can see the tops of the frets, they're very wide. They need to be domed off so that you're just, when you push the string down to the, when you push the string down to the fretboard, if it's not riding on a nice central point, a nice thin central point, what you're doing is the string's not touching in the centre of the fret, it's touching on nearer the outsides of the fret, which is actually changing the intonation, so you're changing the tunings. The idea is when you get a perfect centre ridge dome, yeah, if it's flat, it's making contact on either side, hence changing your tuning. Absolute nightmare. Try and play with a band that's in tune and your guitar is doing the opposite. Ain't good. Been there. Ain't good. Right. Very frustrating. So I just ordered these little babies. So these are, I know it's in reverse, but they are gritted string erasers or rubbers, and then basically what we're going to do is, if I can actually get in there, be nice. There we go. So we've got, they come in different grits. It's for polishing, it's not really for kind of removing. I'm not going to crown with these, but I am going to get them up to a polished shine with these. So we've got, what we got? So we've got 180 grit. Any of you that have done out there that have done some decorating, you know what 80 grit is. 120 grit, 240 grit. Right. So we've got a 180 grit, just for getting any deep scratches that this may have, leveling beam may have caused. But it's a nice fine and it's well worn. So by looking at the tops of these, they look pretty good anyway. So we've got 180 grit, we've got a 400 grit, we've got 1000 grit. You start getting into a nice polish by then. 1500 grit, and you could get away with 1500 grit, and you could use a bit of polish on them afterwards, a bit of metal polish, tape up around the frets and do that, and they'll come up nice. They'll still play nice. But then you get up to a 2000 grit. Now in wet and dry I've got up to a 3000 grit, which gets them looking like they've been polished. And you can quite happily play it and it'll be beautiful. Feel nice and sleek, sound great, sustain be nice. But if then you go to the next stage like I do and you use the metal polish, tape it up, just smear, take a little bit off the tip of your finger, just a little bit, smear it over the and use the it's not a Dremel, but it's the same sort of tool as a Dremel, as I say, with the felt pads in there. You can literally see a reflection of the other side of the rim on them. That's what we really want. If you really want this to feel like an expensive guitar, play like an expensive guitar, it will definitely sound better, definitely sustain longer, because the point of contact is so much more polished. you're actually a gritty finish, or an you know, not quite finished properly on the frets, will lose sustain, because it's sitting on grooves instead of an actual polished surface. You've got to remember, you know, especially, you know, on your top strings, you or your, should I say, your bottom strings, which is your bass strings, you they're wound strings, right? So you've got even less string making contact to the. Now, this is not something I've heard, and this is just common sense to me. This has nothing to do with going and researching and watching other people's videos and just spilling off what they've been saying. That's not what this is about. This is about the science behind it, which, if anyone knows me properly, that's what I'm all about. Let's get to the core and understand things properly. So now let's get ourselves ready to use this little tool. So this is a crowning file, and if you look down the end of it, you'll see it's got 3 nicely different size shapes. So we picked the one that works with our fret the most, and it's got diamond cut. So let's get our pen on there so that we can crown, and what we're looking for is a thin black line after we've crowned, and we want the top of each fret for that line of marker that's left to be exactly the same width, which is roughly, if I was gonna kind of pinpoint just how wide that thin black line left would be. At the moment, some of these frets are leaving about 1/8 of an inch, or 1/16 to 1/18 of an inch of pen across the top of the flats that have been where we've levelled. And what we're looking for is something about the thickness of a couple of a piece of A4 paper folded once to twice, I would imagine, but half the thickness of a credit card. And then when we use the grits to then polish them up and get them looking pretty nice, the grits are not really removing much of the fret. That's not what you're aiming for. You're aiming for smoothing and polishing the fret. So you want to be aiming for a very, very thin even black line across the top of the fret, and that's leaving us that flattened peak perfectly untouched from the leveling. And some of them are already pretty much, a couple of them are almost there already. Let the pen dry, and then we need to decide which is the right size for our frets. So let's try they're quite wide, these frets. Let's try size number 2. Right, let's get where's our tape? Let's start up here, I think. So what we want to try not to do is scratch the fretboard and wreck the finish of the fretboard. So if we give it a good tape them up, do a few at a time. If you tape it properly, you can even leave it on there for when you do the polish. If I was just tweaking a couple of frets, I would, on a neck, you know, somebody said, oh, can you set this one up for me, and I'd just do it a couple of little bits and pieces for the neck. Just doing a couple of little touch-ups. I might just tape up a couple of frets, or obviously I'm going to finish with polish, so, but I can rip a bit of tape. I can tape up the frets I'm doing, and just do a little recrown without taping up the whole board. And you know, as I say, when I did this neck, you know, obviously it's not on the guitar, so I don't have to worry about filings, getting in pickups and stuff like that. But always tape them up, regardless if the neck's staying on the guitar. Obviously, if it's a Gibson style, it's got to stay on the guitar. Otherwise, I'll just tweak up the couple that I'm doing, and then I would tape up a fret at a time when I'm polishing, and then I can move the tape down to the next fret. It saves you an awful lot of tape. So I'm just gonna do a few at a time at the moment and see how I get on. I've seen some people on YouTube that are quite anal when they do this, and they're literally cutting off perfectly with a scalpel. Just get it on there. Seriously, don't worry about it. There's no point messing around with these things. Right, let's just do a few at a time. Here we go. And you want to make sure that the crowning file is exactly centered on the fret. Yes, mate. Just recrowning your frets now.
No. Right, don't come upstairs for like 20 minutes. I'm just walking around for a minute.
Alright, you know I'm recording, right? Yeah?
Yeah, it's cool. Oh, and I'm going through the album that Luke told me to go through, and it sounds alright actually.
Okay, cool.
Good album.
Cool. So, what I've got now is a thin thin black line across the top of the fret. Now, if I'm not happy with the amount of dome, I'm happy with the amount of dome across the top of the fret, which is obviously where string is going to actually make direct contact. But that dome's not stretching far enough down the side of the fret. I can use a flat crowning file, just to kind of, or even you could even get some wet and dry, or some 600 grit wet and dry or something like that, and wrap it around a credit card even, and just tweak them sides. You don't want too much pressure on it. You really don't want to go crazy with this. You just want to take your time. But that, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if it's going to stand out. Let me see. You can see the solid black on the others. Can you see that thin black line? That's what you're looking for. Solid black. Nice thin black line. And that's just perfectly flat on the top of that for the string to sit. All we're going to do from there is work on, once the fret is at that stage, then we're working on the grits to then start polishing it down. But we're not doing polishing that top edge, not until the last thing. Alright, it's the last bit to be polished. You don't want to then make them unlevel again because you've sanded the bloody tops of them. So get everything rounded up to that black line without taking the black line off. You're smoothing and shining and polishing everything up to that line. We're going to try these. I'm going to use a bit of, in fact, I'm going to try the whole job with these. So let's give them a proper try and see how they work out. I'm going to have a go on one now. 180 grit. Let's see how good they are. So I don't want to be going, I don't want to be doing this surface. What I want to be doing is I want to be working from almost flat on the tape, slowly rounding it up until you're almost catching the top. Definitely going to need to do some fret work on the ends. So I don't want to take the top, and I can see already that's starting to do its job. Just do not want to do that top edge. Not until the last thing. We just want to, we're looking for getting all the scratches that the file's made out of it, so that it's starting to look nice. And as I say, last thing you want to do is remove that black line. That black line disappears, you're changing the leveling that you've just done with your leveling beam, right? We want to, at the end, we want to do, when we polish the frets up to that line, lovely, we're happy with it, that's when we go into the next stage, and then we're going to be sanding as we go up and down with a real, a 1500 grit even, just really going up and down so you're doing it evenly, going up and down, up and down, up and down, covering the whole neck nice and evenly. Don't concentrate on one spot any more than another. Nice even coverage. Don't worry too much about going right around these sides and trying to buff them up too much at this point in time. Chances are we're going to recrown them up, we're going to reshape those ends because they're a little bit sharp in places, and I'm just going to dress them up once the frets are pretty good. I'm going to get them nice and polished first, and then we're going to do them after. It'll be the last thing to be done before we go into polishing, properly polishing and getting that showroom gleam. Reminds me of Lee Evans' gag when I say, yeah, showroom gleam. He was talking about an arse, his arse, but anyway. So let's have a go. We'll try with the next one. Now they say on all these videos on YouTube, just go in one direction, go over. As long as that black line still remains, I'm not bothered. So just as long as you are doing a nice little gentle rocking on it, checking it, and make sure that you're not removing too much in one place, that you are checking it. Backwards and forwards is absolutely fine. Alright. If there's other types of crowning files that you can buy on the market which only cut in one direction, you can still go backwards and forwards, but it's still going to cut in one direction. So I still don't see a problem with it myself. For somebody who's been using tools his entire adult life, I'm telling you now, not a problem. With this one, it's cutting and filing whether you're going forwards or backwards, so it is going to come down twice as quick, so just take your time with it. But we are nearly there on this one too. And there we go. That's pretty good.
Don't worry, last couple days.
What's up?
So you know when we go back to school, do you know we're doing like 4 days again? It's still.
Yeah, it's going back as well, whatever normal is.
Right. It's fair enough.
You off out for a bit, mate? Yeah, I'll come and have a quick ciggy with you, mate. There you go, mate. See? Well, I'm just crowning them now, but that's. So you're after that, just that left, leaving that thin black line in the centre. Which is the point where the string would make contact. And that'll give perfect intonation off the centre of the fret. So I'm just doing this one now, and then it should be ready for strings within about an hour or so. I'm going to come and have a cigarette with you, mate. That's 3 perfect frets. Right. I'm going for a fang.
Seems like it goes.